Oh, 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 damn it.
What's up?
Welcome to Late Night Freedom Stream, the afternoon edition. We have some really interesting interviews for you guys today. My producer Leighton has invited a couple of drag queens on the program to have a conversation, a real casual conversation, and just kind of chat. We got one in the back right now. Could we bring Claudette up potentially?
All right. Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So,
No problem.
Thank you for coming on the show.
yeah, no problem.
So we got a couple more drag queens poking in here at some point, but kind of full transparency with you here, Claudette. I've been in the community. I guess I've been accused of being like a homophobe of sorts, right?
Right.
So I kind of wanted to like have some drag queens and some people that I disagree with on the show. So I really, really appreciate you coming on the show, and I have a lot of respect for you being willing to engage in a conversation and talk a bit.
No, that's no problem. I mean, you just got to do it sometimes, huh? So.
Absolutely. Would you mind starting us off by kind of letting us know what was your initial interest in drag? When did you get into it, and what was that process kind of like?
I guess so. First off, I started off, having to understand who I was. I mean, kind of identifying myself as, I guess people would call it nowadays like a two-spirit or something like that, And I guess I kind of realized that being from the Midwest, I'm from Kansas, so being from the Midwest, it's kind of hard for people like me, or with any sort of difference, to even have sort of any understanding because of the education aspect of it. A lot of people don't even understand who they are really, and I guess it was kind of just a platform at the right time, to be able to get a message out there that that people, with any sort of difference, they're not alone. I mean, they're because people, they're committing suicide daily. I mean, because they're a little bit different or something, and they don't understand why. And just being able to give somebody that face to relate to was kind of the importance there for me. And that's kind of with the drag community. I mean, it just with the open stages and kind of flexibility on what town to go to and where to do a show or something like that. It just kind of opened up to be able to give that platform to be able to help any sort of person older or younger than me kind of be able to have someone to identify with.
Do you mind letting us know how old you are?
I'm about to be 37 April 29th.
So if this is not too intrusive, I always like asking people like, oh, well, I guess I'll start. Do you consider yourself gay, or what is the?
No, I mean, I don't, I always used to try to say I was a straight male, I mean, some people, I would even say at times I would consider myself like a Christian conservative back in the day.
Really?
I mean, it's a lot of people, they'll, because of what I do, I mean, a lot of people that think it's either sexually driven or something like that, but it really, it's not that aspect. I never really pursued a man. I've been with one. I'm not gonna lie and say I haven't, but I've never really pursued a man. I mean, it's more just I'm more attracted to female or stuff like that, and I mean, it's just never been. It really never became an issue of what I was sexually until I started becoming. I mean, because sometimes, man, you go to these shows, and sometimes being me, I mean, you're not gay enough for the gay people, for the drag queens, stuff like that. You're not, so it's a weird, a different sort of vibe with me. I mean, it's, I don't know. It's different to explain. I never really never had to think about it till I was, at the club for my first time, and and everybody was like, "Well, listen, Claudette, are you gay or what? What's going on with you? What's your, shoot? I mean, I didn't even really ever think about it. So
So that's really interesting to me. I wonder, like because you told us that you were interested in finding community and like a place to kind of belong and like being an example for other people that are perhaps struggling with their mental health. You know, if you're not a homosexual man, like how did you how old were you when you first tried drag?
Well, I mean, drag. I guess it did kind of. So here's the thing. I mean, if we're really being kind of raw and uncut about it, it did kind of start like a sexual thing. Like I thought, hey, I had to be submissive to, I needed a girl or something to tell me, hey, to dress or something like that. And it kind of started out like a submissive sort of sexual thing. But then as the time went on, I realized, and yes, it did stem from like a little trauma and stuff when I was a kid and stuff like that. And, but it took a partner to be able to tell me like, hey, you don't have to be sexual to dress, and then that's when, I mean, if you ever see me, I mean, I feel sometimes more confident. I mean, I used to be a stand-up comedian, and I used to do that, and well, I always said, I started doing it as Claudette, and I was like, well, there's a lot more meat and potatoes behind Claudette, and there's a lot more. I had a lot more fun, a lot more confidence. I mean, I just kind of, even from just being in drag or just, kind of being a little bit more just on a style of clothes, even outside of drag, and it kind of gave me a little bit more of a, something that was missing, like the way I could handle myself and carry myself. I mean, people will always try to say, well, it's a character or something like that you play or something, but it's not. It gave me a little bit more confidence to be able to try different clothes, different looks, and not a different personality so much. It just allowed me to be myself, and that's kind of a key to life, really. I mean, once you start being able to be yourself, it's it kind of just makes life just flow just so much better, So
I appreciate you sharing a little bit more personal details there. It looks like we have another drag queen in the queue. Leighton, should we get them in right now, or you there, Leighton? Oh, old boy's frozen. I think we're going to go ahead and just add you in the queue here.
all right.
Jake Jones, Roxy Von Trash, welcome.
Hey,
hello.
Jake.
Hey, haven't seen you in forever.
I know. How are you? You good?
Good.
Good. It's good to see you.
So, welcome, Jake. I was just telling Claudette that I'm full transparency here. We're not trying to trap anybody on this program, but I have been called like a homophobe in the scene at certain points. So I wanted to have a conversation with some drag queens and just like kind of the way you would talk to somebody that you meet at the bar, just like really openly and candidly, and kind of get to know you guys a little bit better and open up a dialogue. So I was asking Claudette kind of how they had gotten into drag and what that journey was like. Like, could you maybe give us like a brief synopsis of when you got into drag, what attracted you to it, your first performance, that kind of thing?
Let's see. It like my intro to drag is a little bit different. I actually started in the cosplay scene first, and I experimented a little with like. So when I first started, it was like 2019, 2018, and gender bend cosplay was starting to be really popular on like TikTok and YouTube and stuff. And I started seeing this other performers, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool, but my upbringing was very by the book Christian biker family, so it was a very taboo thing as far as like how I was brought up. And I spent a good like 2-3 years just dabbling in like cosplay, so doing just male stuff and learning makeup, learning effects makeup, different artistry, and I found myself in a few different friend groups that were they were very open to the ideas of doing these gender bend, drag-esque uh, cosplays, or some stuff would be even just playing an RP, role playing as to whatever character you want to make up. So it could be male, female, absolutely nothing. It was completely free reign. When I officially got into drag, it was actually a lot of it was in help with a friend of mine that could tell I've always been leaning towards the more feminine side of just who I am as a person, and they encouraged me to just explore like my own words.
Can you mind me asking? I asked Claudette this same question, and I don't know a lot about this. So, are you a gay man or just a drag queen?
I am a gay man. I'm also non-binary,
Oh, okay.
which quick explanation: non-binary just means I see myself as in between. Like I am a biological male, yes, but as far as the way I act, the way I dress, at least half the time, I'm in between. Sometimes I'm more feminine, sometimes more masculine.
Gotcha. Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I did just want to ask that. So you guys have some similarities in your story. I want to draw in our other guest is in here as well, but I think it's interesting that you both mentioned kind of in your journey to start drag that there was a role playing element.
Yeah.
Go ahead, jump on in.
Oh, I was just saying it was just kind of you just can't, and I'm probably sure in Roxy's life as well. It wasn't, you just had to kind of find that reason to be able to have a purpose to dress. I mean, it's like I don't just dress. I don't push myself onto people. I don't dress in front of other people's children or something like that. I mean, you kind of just had to have a reason to be able to dress. I mean, a lot of times when you're starting out, you just don't know. You don't want to be like, you don't want people to walk in on you, that aspect of it. You don't want people to this. So it's just more of it, probably in the same aspect as they are. It's just, just giving you a reason to have to dress, really. I mean,
Gotcha. Hey, we're gonna bring in our last guest that will round out the conversation. I think this is Mayana, is how you say this name here. Hello, welcome to the stream.
Hi.
Hey, appreciate you doing a little work to get in the attire for this.
Maybe. I mean, might as well.
So I'll give you the same spiel I gave everybody else before I ask you a question. Like, because we're not trying to trap anybody here, or we're not trying to surprise anybody. But I was telling them, hey, is there any way? Oh, here we go. I was telling them that in the scene, I've been accused of being homophobic because of my politics and particular beliefs that I have. So I really appreciate you coming on the show and having a casual conversation. I was explaining to them that I want this conversation to kind of be like strangers at a bar, just open, candid, just a conversation, but I asked both of them. So I want to ask you as well, kind of what your journey was to get interested in drag, maybe when your first performance was, and what that kind of looks like to get into that scene.
Yeah, I started off in theater and 17-ish years ago, and I've been off and on doing theater, and then took a break and came into the drag scene and started off just dabbling, wasn't taking it serious, and then I just been doing it ever since. And
So So you were a theater kid. So you were always kind of like flamboyant and performative, even as a teenager.
Yes.
That makes sense. Do you mind me asking how old you are?
24.
24. So how old were you when you got into how old were you when you did your first drag performance, I should say?
I was 20.
20. Okay. So you got 4 years. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was 20 for my first, but I was moving into it.
Gotcha. Have you ever done like what would be like the biggest performance that you've done in your mind?
It was just, I want to say, well, there's a couple, and so it was Pride last year in the square,
Okay, I was there.
and you probably saw me perform a few times, and then recently, a few months ago, me coming back out again as a trans woman.
Oh, okay. Well, since you brought it up, I would. Oh man, Roxy, your thing is like a potato. What am I feeding back on right now?
There you go. It's fixed.
Oh, okay. So I do want, because this is part of the reason that I've gotten in trouble, because in my opinion, I think it's inappropriate for children to be exposed to drag. What was like, and that's part of the reason that I was at the event last year, was kind of like doing some like journalism and kind of just like showing the event, because as you know, it was kind of advertised for children. So I'm assuming that you think it's appropriate since you performed at the event. What is your opinion of kind of like drag kids in this kind of phenomenon?
I'm on the fence about it. Not gonna lie, I'm on the fence about it.
I'm pleased to hear that, because it is a very dicey issue.
Yes. And the reason why I'm saying it is because, yes, I do believe that kids should, to a certain extent, of drag, but not all types of drag, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get that.
Well, I reckon, there's always been like, okay, so me and Leighton were kind of having this conversation the other day, like where, should I try to unmute Jake again? Because it was feeding back really bad when I did before. Oh, yeah. Jake, do you have some headphones or something you could use?
All right.
Because I want you to be involved in the conversation. You're feeding back. Okay, but anyway, so will you mute him again, Leighton?
Yeah.
Like Mrs. Doubtfire was like a thing when we were kids, and I don't find that movie like morally objectionable or inappropriate, but something that I think is interesting is the premise of that movie. The joke is, haha, it's funny, their dad looks like an old lady. That's kind of the goof of the movie, and they play it up for laughs. Whereas like I feel like more of the modern, like exposing kids to like, this was in the 90s, so there wasn't a conversation about changing your gender really in the 90s, but now that we're in 2020, there is a conversation about changing your gender and much heated debate about it. So it just seems like the things that children are being exposed to when it comes to cross-dressing now are like deeply political and not really for laughs so much as in my opinion, it looks to be some sort of indoctrination. And anybody can jump in on this, that
I felt like, we're not, so there had never been a time where there was drag queens, sitting in a drag in a dressing room. Someone was like, hey, I want to go out and just read a whole bunch of books to kids. None of us said that. Even on the bathroom aspect of it. I mean, really, none of us were like really hard pressed on where we needed to go to the bathroom. I mean, it's kind of that it all has all been really blown up from like news and something. I mean, had to give someone a reason to argue. I mean, like I'm saying, we're not, we're not sitting around trying to push ourselves onto kids. A lot of us have the same outlook when it comes to that. I mean, I think on the show right now, I'm the only one with a dog. I have a child.
Really?
I'm real.
Oh, okay.
I'm real particular on. The only reason she's ever seen me on drag is because when my family did find out, I try to hide it from her, and it was hard to explain to her, like, hey, here's a picture of dad. This is your dad, and dressed up and stuff. It was kind of hard to explain it to her, but it was funny. The kids seem to have more of an understanding about it than even adults do. I mean, my daughter, when I was crying and sad and upset about being able, just being able to be Claudette, first thing she said to me, she's like, "Dad, I'll be your makeup buddy," and and she was a lot to do with me being able to have the confidence to be able to talk to people. I mean, it's weird, but I mean, a lot of us, like I was saying, we all have the same kind of values when it comes to that. I mean, it's just kind of been blown up over time through media and stuff like that. So,
right. That's a really good point, Claudette, and that's oh shit, sorry. That's interesting that you have a daughter and that of course you're worried about preserving the innocence of your child, and honestly, it's kind of I don't know, like I sympathize with that situation. It's kind of heartbreaking to me that your daughter would witness you struggling with your identity in that way, and you kind of are explaining like the beauty and the openness of a child where, she doesn't really care what you call yourself. All she knows is that you're her father and clearly she loves you. Yeah, I think that you're right. Cause honestly, man, a lot of this stuff started because for me and being accused of like hating gay people or whatever, it started with Johan Collins, the promoter. I used to play shows for him. And then me and him got in like a non-political kind of beef. And he used that, like me being like a homophobe to kind of like ruin my career in town. But I played Get Dusted, the yacht club one that was at Crave. And, I never had an issue with drag when it was in its proper environment. Like when it's adults at a venue, like I think that's where it belongs, in my opinion. The only stuff that really irks me is like, why do we need to bring this to the children? And it doesn't seem like any of you folks in here are the kind of drag queens that want to go read books to kids or something. I wonder what goes through those kinds of drag queens' heads. Like I get that they're trying to help with like public optics, but I think that it actually makes the optics worse for people like you guys who just kind of want to be left alone and do stuff in a private club. All of a sudden you got half of America thinking you want to read books to their kids and do all this kind of craziness.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not even the way, I mean, 9 times out of 10, you're going to find with every drag queen, we're all kind of about the same as far as the way we believe. I mean, and then on the other side of that, I mean, kids nowadays are identifying sexually a lot quicker than we were, 10, even 5 years ago, So when you see that picture of drag queens reading to kids, I mean, you have to understand the whole story or the whole. You just see a picture and you're fired up about it. You got to understand. I mean, we don't know whose kids those were. I mean, a lot of the community, I feel like, and I could be wrong, were not just raised up in drag or something like that, but it's families are involved as well. I mean, it's not just some of us are lucky to have our family involved in the shows and picking out the dresses and stuff like that. So it's not just like you don't know whose kids those were. You don't know the full story. So it's kind of hard to say anything. I mean, about you
Well,
know, what they're,
this is true because when, like I was saying before, when we were kids, there was no drag queen story hour. So this is like, 10, 20 years from now, we'll see the fruits of events like that and see how it truly impacts children. Because we didn't have that opportunity as kids. Even if our parents wanted to take us to something like that, which mine definitely would not have, thankfully. But I I wonder if there will be some kind of ramifications from this sort of thing. Like, I don't know. You're making some sense there, Claudette. I appreciate you engaging in the conversation so much.
all right.
Have you guys? Okay, so I did want to bring this up. We have a clip, and I'm sure you guys have all seen this, but this is like part of my concern with like the drag queen story hour and kind of this becoming popular. Like, I fear that kids see drag as a way to become famous now instead of it just being kind of like a obscure adult thing. You guys have probably all seen this already, but we'll show a little piece of it for context, and then we can talk about it. If you'd pull that up, Leighton.
Desmond Annapolis, get ready for this trailblazing 11-year-old drag kid who RuPaul is calling the future. His bravery is inspiring so many. We're going to talk to him in just a moment, but first, let's take a look at his amazing story.
I'm Desmond. I'm 11 years old, and I like pizza, trains, and drinking root beers that's caffeine-free. I also do drag. And
okay, you can pause that, Leighton. I'm going to go ahead and read Jesse's comment here, and you guys can respond to this if you want. Oh, we're pressing it at the same time. Jesse says, that's the indoctrination we're talking about. They're taking innocence away. Sex is for adults, mentally fully developed adults. It's a pact to bring life into the world and protect it ultimately. So to me, this looks like kind of a sexual thing that this 11-year-old's parents are getting him involved in. And, I don't think that this is a good way to preserve your child's innocence or secure a happy future for them.
Well, how I see it is I see it similar to beauty pageant stuff,
Right.
where it's these mothers like forcing their kids to be in like beauty pageants and stuff like that. And that of course has like major effects on kids. Like we've seen how child actors turn out after like years after being on TV shows and stuff. Like they're suicidal. They and we've seen a lot of like bad stuff come out of the beauty pageant scene. And I feel like it's not too different, child drag queens. I don't think it's too different from, beauty pageants and stuff, which is a thing that people have been fighting for years to try to, get stopped and stuff. But
I want to give Jake a chance to respond because we haven't heard from you in a minute.
Where to start on this subject? I actually don't feel the same that drag is something that should be just for adults, because I mean, like you did bring up Mrs. Doubtfire, but there is a lot of other references to men dressing as females that are even in serious matters. And drag performance also has, like, I know queens that are like Mrs. Doubtfire, just like they're 90 years old, and I don't see how that has anything to do with sexual anything. I would understand if like their costumes are like stripper-esque. Like I know queens that only work at strip clubs and dress in barely nothing, but like I've actually worked 4 different prides now, including 2 of them which I put on myself in Lebanon, Missouri, and I always wore a ball gown, something like princess, elegance, nothing that would be like considered sexual.
Did you notice like when you dressed as a princess with the ball gown, like were there children at the Pride event in Lebanon?
Yes,
How did little girls respond to you in a ball gown?
they loved it. They thought I looked like a princess.
Do you? To me, I would be worried that would be confusing or something to them.
Why? They just see a person in the dress. Why do we have to attach a male and female role to it?
I guess, like, well, it's tough to say because if you're prepubescent, none of this stuff is going to register, you know, and it shouldn't. But it's like once kids start to mature and that egg starts to crack, so to speak, of puberty, and you know, you get the birds and the bees. Like, do you remember how simple the birds and the bees was when we were kids? You know, it's just like it was just procreation. You know, XY, procreate, makes babies. It's like, man, I'm fearful for the child that has like you know, like LGBTQ like activist parents. Like, what does that birds and bees conversation sound like? I feel like it would be very convoluted.
I personally never received a birds and the bees talk. I also wasn't sexually active at a young age. Like I mentioned before, I was raised in a very Christian, like conservative family. I mean, sex wasn't hidden. It was there. Just it wasn't a main focus. Does that make sense?
Right. Well, it's interesting that I guess it makes sense because you guys are all from the Midwest. That everybody. I guess we didn't. Miana, what was your family like?
Oh. It's a mix. I mean, I do have two moms, and
Okay.
so I mean, one mom's like heel for it, and then the other one's like it's a mix. So
Your lesbian mothers have different opinions about drag.
no, just about like being gay and trans and everything.
I mean, I get that too. You know, like my parents, you know, they weren't the most accepting like parents, and I think that's just a something that's gonna remain forever. You're never gonna be able to kind of like change your parents' mind on stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. But like I do understand where you're coming from on that. You know, it is kind of like a hard kind of thing to go through especially whenever you're a child. You know, going through your developmental stages.
It's
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
from okay. I probably should have started with this too. I'm also a studying psychologist, and from a psychological standpoint, most parents with a child that has come out as gay or trans or has just seemingly changed overnight for some people, it's the parents experience something that's similar to like the thing they created has changed without them. It's can't think of the term at the moment. It's similar to like when a child leaves home for the first time. It's that same feeling. They feel like they've lost their child when they've just changed. They feel a disconnection because the child that they raised or brought into life has done something other than what they thought they were going to do. So they feel this cognitive dissonance.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of like when your kid like starts dating or like one of those
Mm-hmm.
those things where you can tell they're moving away from you. I guess it would be a similar feeling there.
It's separation anxiety.
Jake and Claudette, do either of you guys still identify as a Christian since you were raised that way?
I do not actually.
I I still hold value. I mean, just values that were instilled in me. I mean, as far as a child and growing up in a Christian family, I mean, it's just kind of moral values more than anything. I mean, it's not necessarily, you know. Yes, I believe in a higher power, supreme being or whatever, but it's more the, yes, I do have values instilled in me still. I mean, it's not like I didn't forget how to be a decent human being because I started doing drag. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Right. Well, you don't need to be a Christian to be a good person in the sense of the world. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Jake, what made you ultimately decide to leave your faith behind?
A lot of it came from the way it was portrayed in my upbringing. It was very much fear of damnation, fear. It was fear based. It wasn't God is love. He loves us all. I've read about it. I've heard about that type, and I feel like the base Christianity still is, but most modern people that believe in Christian faith, they don't believe that it's about love. It's about accepting each other and overcoming sin. Like,
oh yeah.
It
well, I
seems
think
to be very clear.
It seems to me a big hang up because you're probably aware of and I don't know if you appreciate them or not, but like the progressive like gay churches in town, like the Venues or the Universalist Church, they tend to avoid certain scriptures, and it if you get a conservative Christian and a progressive Christian in the same room, the definitions are going to be different. Like a progressive Christian would think that love is accepting somebody exactly as they are right now, everything, whereas the conservative Christian's conception of love would be pointing out sin, because if you love somebody, you must you don't want them to like walk onto a train track, essentially. That debate is super interesting to me. Yeah, I've had a conversation with the assistant pastor at the Venues before, and it's just weird to me that the progressive Christians try to even claim the mantle, because they do so much extra stuff to try to like reinterpret scripture and say the Greek means something that it actually does. And
It's a very hard subject once you get into it, because the King James version of the Bible, the modern version that every Christian supposedly goes off of, is translated from the original Hebrew, which, if you don't know, there's no vowels in Hebrew. So every word has 4 to 5 meanings for every single word in the Bible. It is very, very easy for it to be mistranslated or changed. That's another reason that I don't fully believe in the Christian faith, because there's so much that could be changed, or it has been changed, because when it was translated to English by King James, who knows what he had put in there.
All right.
Well, I don't want to get in too much into a theological debate, so I'll let that stand. But I will say I think the scripture is reputable. You can trust it if you read a King James Bible. But Mayana, actually, Jake, would you consider yourself agnostic now? Then is that kind of where you're at?
Yes.
How about you, Mayana? As far as like believing in God, or what way do you kind of go with that?
I'm still on the fence about it. Like, I mean, like what Claudette said, like, yes, I do believe there is someone higher up. Yes, I just not really sure about it.
Okay. Appreciate the answer on that.
And I wanted to go into something Jake said earlier about the about like what the parents feel during a kid coming out to them.
Yeah.
I came out to my parents, when I was around like 15, 16. And I can imagine that they were, confused because, the Christian faith says that homosexuality, it's bad. It's not, it's an abomination and all that. They, I can see how like a parent would be confused in a situation like that where their child, their church is telling them they're a sinner and, they are damned to hell. But for me, it took me to just understand how my parents feel in a situation and relate to that and feel that, and be able to, understand where they're coming from on certain things. And then, me and my relationship with my parents are really good now. We're still talking, we're still, hanging out and stuff. So I think that it's just really hard, especially whenever you're a kid, it's like a kid, it's your child, you're supposed to raise them, it's confusing for a parent to, have their kid come out to them. So
I imagine it would be, yeah. I want to remind all of our viewers right now, we have 8 viewers watching live. Thank you guys for watching. If you want your comment to appear on screen, you've got to use YouTube or our Facebook page, and we'll be able to respond to your comments and throw them up on screen. We got a couple more comments here from Jesse relating to the kind of theological thing. He said, what people claim is original Hebrew in most circles is actually Babylonian Aramaic. I don't have any sources to back this up at the moment, but the languages aren't as important as the main message in the gospel is, in fact. He said, do your own research if it's interesting to you. Well, and that's kind of like, I do consider myself a Christian. I'm compelled enough that, I don't know, I don't focus on the apologetics of like the Hebrew and the Greek so much anymore. I'm trying to just get back and read it a little bit myself, and that's a hard enough challenge for a simpleton like me. So I'm sorry that I can't provide some like better apologetics to defend my own faith, but we're not necessarily here to talk about that exclusively. And well, I think Leighton, that's kind of an interesting topic. I'd be curious to hear kind of your experiences, each one of you, like coming out to your folks, if you'd be interested in telling the story. Sure. Let's who wants to start?
I mean, I can start if you'd like.
Yes, please.
So my story was kind of different. I was a blue collar Christian, race car driving, country boy, football playing, high school wrestler. I mean, it really caught a lot of people off guard. It broke my parents. I mean, so my mom passed away in March of last year.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay, but on her deathbed, she goes, I said, Mom, how come you never came to, she only came to one of my shows, 2 of my shows. And I said, Mom, how come you aren't as supportive as, you always told me to do what I want to do, to find myself, to, the whole world's told me that. I mean, just be yourself and achieve your dreams, and, her actual final words to me basically was, I just didn't like who you became,
Damn.
And yeah, that hurt. I mean, it hurt a lot. It hurt a lot, but the thing is, I kind of played tape for her and kind of a highlight reel of, I started doing drag last year. I mean, in 1 year, I kind of started, and, she lay there on her deathbed, kind of, and, I showed her videos of highlights of really good moments like Miami, where, Pride Week that one year was really a big deal to me. I mean, because I've never even got to celebrate a Pride Week. So to let alone, and to be on a main stage on Pride Week was a pretty big deal for me, you know. And so, but when she got to see that joy that came from it for me, then it started. You could see her crack a smile, and she was more happy for me because she's seen accomplishments in my life. I mean, you know, as Nick, I was really reckless. I mean, a lot of us are, you know, I'm just, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but a lot of us were really reckless because we didn't know who we were, so we just didn't give give a damn.
I've been there. Yeah, yes.
Yeah, and so when I became Claudette, yeah, I still make stupid mistakes, and I'm still a carnal man, and I still do things wrong, and I don't follow all the rules all the time or anything like that, but I became more conscious of decisions I was making and choices I would make, and I would try to make right decisions for Claudette as if it was another person. I mean, it was her chance to live, you know, and if if bad boy Nick does this and whatever he does, it ruins a lot of opportunities for Claudette. And I kind of look at her as a whole different person than I am. I mean, I consciously go. People are always saying like, well, so what is it? What is it, man? Is it like split? Are you like you got a different personality? What do you got?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I do act different as Claudette. I do 100%, but I'm subconsciously doing it. I'm subconsciously going back and forth from Nick to Claudette. It's not like it's, I wake up and I shake it off. And I'm like, okay, what did I just do? Or where did I just go? Or what? I'm subconsciously doing this. I mean, my parents, to get back off onto the subject, my parents, I mean, they hated it. My dad still hates it to this day. I don't get a lot of support, but then I got to remember that it's a lot bigger than just me and myself. I have to remember why I started doing it to begin with. I take a lot of humiliation, a lot of embarrassment, and I put myself in a lot of situations. Like even this this show, I didn't know what I was walking into. For all I could have walked in, and this could have been just a bashing on my lifestyle, which we're kind of trying to figure out why we decide to live the way we are. I mean, and it's not necessarily that in a sense, but I didn't know. I don't know how the world takes me from one day to the next when I go out to eat or something like that. So a lot of it, it's really really a brand new subject for a lot of us, and I'm not trying to toot our horn or make us sound holier than thou or anything like that, but we may not realize it right now, but we are a forefront for this. If you call it a movement or whatever you call it, it's a really really new band-aid that we're ripping off of society. A lot of it's been just swept under or washed or swept under a rug. I mean, a lot of when you go back even way back in the Bible days, there's been world wars won because they were able to get a king out of a country or out of a city dressed as a female, as sort of a cover up. So they didn't know, even look at the thing like the Titanic. The guy wanted to get on the boat, so he put a scarf over his head.
Well,
trying to get.
I want to give everybody an opportunity to answer that original question. But you said a couple of things that make me want to engage with you a bit, Claudette. I can't help but think because you even use language like carnal man, which is like straight gospel, right? I definitely was like a big drug user, was very lost. I still lose my way sometimes and have to get back to square one. I think every human being has character flaws of their own that they have to figure out how to overcome. But you mentioned being interested in like authenticity, and with all due respect, I can't help but think like the most authentic thing you could do is use your God-given name and embrace who you really are.
Well, what's my God-given name?
Did you say it was Nick or?
Well, I mean, but you're asking what someone else's perception of my identity is. That's not not how I perceive myself. Again, earlier in the conversation, I said, I felt more comfortable as Claudette or as doing drag and stuff like that. That's because that's what makes me feel comfortable. So it's just kind of, maybe go see what the other people's outlook is on it. But you're asking how I should feel good, not what makes me feel good inside. And that's all. That's important to any sex, creed, religion, anything like that. It's what makes you feel good inside. What makes you feel good as a person. What makes you want to wake up each day. And that's what I've held on to. But and again, I mean, it could have been very different for me. I could have very easily football or something like that. It could have been exactly.
You look
what
like
I
you
want.
have kind of an athletic build. I imagine you probably were a good high school athlete. Is that?
Yeah.
But man, I'm feeding back really bad on somebody's monitor. I think it must be Claudette's. But do you believe in an objective reality, Claudette?
I believe. I mean, if you're saying, I believe that people are trying to tell you how you should live, because of what they know. Because of, again, it goes back to fear. I mean, it's what they know. It's what somebody else knew before us. I mean, that's like even in the drag community, a lot of us are doing just like the person that taught us before how to do drag. A lot of time, like people would talk about, like, hey, Claudette, let me do your makeup, or hey, let me do this. It's because that's how they felt I should look, or that's how they felt I should be dressed, or it never ever was, hey, Claudette, what do you want? How do you want to look? How do you want to dress? I mean, but then the same thing is, if you're the same as the person the year before you, then nothing changes and no one has to change. Everybody remains comfortable. And that's what everybody holds on to, is just being able to remain comfortable in their life. Moving forward, if we change who we are and we live how we want to live and who we want to be, it doesn't allow people to be comfortable, but it allows the world to progress and move forward. It's just, I mean, even in Christianity, I mean, there wouldn't be, if that wasn't a true statement, there wouldn't be a New Testament and Old Testament.
Well,
if it was,
I'm trying to not get into a theological debate here because that's a whole nother can of worms. But I feel like you've had a lot of time and I appreciate you sharing, Claudette, but I want to give somebody else an opportunity to speak as well. Who wants to go next?
I think we should let Jake go next, given that I got to go to here in a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have work in about 20 minutes. Let's see. So the original question was like when I came out, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yes. So I came out when I was about 15 to my grandparents, which my grandparents raised me. They definitely did not take it well at all. Like I mentioned before, very conservative Christian, biker family. I remember the day I just came home and my grandma was in tears and my grandpa was trying very hard not to just yell a lot. And I very much got the very, we're Christian, this is wrong. And like, whoever told you this was okay, you need to stay away from them. That's actually
said.
What, Leighton?
That was the same reaction that my parents had. They said that it was like people were like indoctrinating me into it and stuff. And I don't think being gay is my opinion on it is I don't think being gay is necessarily something you can change. Like, I mean, yeah, there's ex-gay people, but a lot of them, switch back to being gay. I think attraction isn't something humans can control. It's completely, it's like a whole separate thing. And I don't think really the Bible necessarily talks enough about it. But I mean, the Bible's perfect as it is. I feel like, you know, I mean,
Good save.
Yeah, don't want to be damned to hell.
Continue on, Jake.
Let's see where they lead up. So but they had that whole, very stern talk with me, and I actually, I left the friend group I was in, and I quit the job I was working, and I turned to the Bible. I started reading,
Huh.
and like I for lack of a better term, I turned straight for about 4 years after that, I think.
No
Quick
way.
math. Yeah.
Wow.
Until I was 21, when I moved out on my own and I was experiencing life for myself, and that's when I started figuring out who I was.
Were you that's so fascinating. That is like not the answer I expected at all.
we relate a lot on this stuff too. Like I whenever my parents, you know, whenever I came out, I turned to the Bible, and I also tried my best to be different, you know, than what I, was at the time thought I was. I thought I was bisexual at the time. That's what I came out as.
Mhm.
But, you know, eventually down the road, I just found out, you know, I'm just pure gay.
Yeah.
But, you
The
know,
purest.
it's like I do understand where you're coming from. Like that is a very like troubling thing in life. But I feel like I mean, yeah, it is very troubling.
It was like this constant weight on me that I was damned no matter what I did, because I could not change how I felt, even though I kept trying. I had, I would say, probably like 7 girlfriends in that time span of 4 years,
Damn,
Wow.
son.
and I just I did everything just like a normal straight person would. Like we full on dated and everything, and I just never felt an attraction. And that's always how they ended too. Is I just never felt an attraction to them.
Huh.
Yep.
Well, that would be hard to keep a relationship going if you weren't attracted to the person.
Mhm.
This might be prodding a bit too much, so you don't have to answer this, but I'm curious, and I hope that you're open to it. But Claudette had kind of mentioned before, earlier when we were talking, that there was some like trauma in their childhood that kind of put them on the trajectory kind of to where they are now. Did you experience anything like that?
I did have trauma when I was very I was 4. I don't really want to go into more detail than that,
That's okay.
but it's honestly, it is a subject that I'm trying to understand myself, because learning psychology, I'm learning how things like childhood trauma and things like that will affect a person's personalities. But it's something. What's the nature versus nurture? It's like I was raised in a very Christian, very conservative, very by the book, gotta be straight. Gay people are weird, and I still ended up this way.
Right. Supposedly you had the most idealistic kind of childhood, despite the trauma, being raised in the truth.
And another point is the trauma I don't fully remember, because I was at such a young age. I only know.
Very common. Very common.
Yes.
I'm sorry to hear that. And, and I hate to ask, but I think it is relevant to this conversation of like identity, sexuality, gender. My best friend growing up, his whole family what they were in a shitty church, and the pastor sexually abused all of them, and the way that it affected each one of them was so different, because I think when you could see it when a child is born, there's kind of a hardwired person there already. Like there is like some chemical and biological stuff that's like they already have like kind of a personality cut out, but this your environment and the things that happen to you does affect everybody differently based off of kind of that hard wiring, it seems. We're going to go ahead and Miana, I would really like to hear from you. I know, Jake, you don't have much time, so please cut in and we'll give you a final word before you have to go, okay?
Okay.
Miana, if you could tell us about coming out to your folks.
Okay, well, I came out twice. It's really interesting. So the first time I came out, I was 15, 16. And at that time, I was a gay man, but everybody knew I was like gay. I didn't really like anybody. He just, oh, he's gay, okay, look. And then like, I told my parents about it. I'm like, they were very okay with it because they are also gay. So I'm like, I didn't really have to tell them. They just already knew. And then the second time I came out recently, like a little over a year ago, and I came out as a trans woman. And so I kept it in, not saying anything for like a month or two. And then I posted it on social media, and then that's how everybody found out. So,
Yeah.
Do you think that your parents, since they were lesbians, do you think that they were kind of hoping you would be gay, or do you think they would have been fine with you being straight too, or?
we don't talk. We still talk and everything. It's just hard to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because right now, because as a trans woman, it's just in general, it's not really, it's harder for us, just in general, for like everybody in the LGBTQ plus, but mostly for trans women. It's just hard for trans women because they just look down upon us and say, oh, you're not a woman because you have X, Y, and Z, or they just don't want to talk to us.
Man, that's so wild, because I could only imagine that part of the reason that you were interested in being a woman is because your main role models growing up were two women.
Yes.
And then when you identify yourself as a woman, these women that you looked up to kind of don't accept you as a woman.
No, they really accept me.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to misspeak for you there.
No, you're good. No, they totally accept it. They do. It's a weird conversation with outside, like with other family members. It's just weird to talk about, if that makes sense.
I feel like it is a really weird conversation to have. Like, I feel like it would be a very kind of difficult conversation to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like me, like I'm trying not to ask stupid and offensive questions right now, but I promise you, if you could look inside my brain, you would think that I'm dumb. Because these topics are hard to approach gracefully. I mean, they really are. And our culture is so divided right now that it's, you know, you say one thing to one person and it's totally fine. You say something else to somebody different and it's the end of the world, you know? So it's hard to find the words sometimes to have a respectful and productive conversation, especially around such a controversial topic. I think we're doing good here, though, gang. I really appreciate everybody. I think this has been somewhat fruitful so far, really. I had no idea how this was going to go.
Yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I really like being able to have this open conversation like this.
Me too.
I think it doesn't happen a lot. Like what I see most is people arguing and bickering and, you know, trolling and shit like that. You don't really see these kind of like nuanced conversations happen. You know, you see more of just division and just like people just yelling and screaming at each other and trying to one up the other, you know. So this is a very good conversation, I think, you know.
Man, we've hit a lot of bases. We'll probably go ahead and wrap this soon because I know Jake's got to work, and I'm sure everybody else has stuff they want to do today. I'm going to go ahead and give each one of you a couple minutes to like give us some closing statements, and then I hope that we can do this again sometime and maybe get more into these topics. Really. So Claudette, Jake, we'll let you go first since you're going to have to go here soon. So if you want to give us your closing thoughts.
My closing thoughts on drag in general is the whole basic idea of drag is to explore parts of your personality that you basically let your inside personality out. It's also similar to why women wear makeup. It's just similar to why makeup is popular in theater. It's to present present what's on the inside on to the outside. It's an expression. It's an art form.
Okay. Thank you for coming on the program. Love to have you on again sometime.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Have a good day. Claudette, we'll let you go next there. I guess we could go ahead and boom. There he goes.
All right. So, you know, I mean, as a whole, this was a great conversation. I enjoyed it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks for coming.
I think I appreciate it. On the other side of the fence, you know, the thing we didn't touch, and real quickly, I mean, you know, we're also having to monitor ourselves on this side of the fence as well. I mean, as far as our reaction to hatred, I mean, a lot of reaction and stuff like that, the way we react could be as worse than the actual hatred itself or the outlook of other people. I mean, we could actually very quickly in this conversation or very quickly on the whole subject, we could ruin it just by one simple action. So it's not, you know, I feel, hey, this is a great thing. It needed to happen. It doesn't happen. But that's kind of what our part in this whole thing is anyways, is allowing these to happen, these conversations. But you know, we, on the other side of the fence is that people don't see is, you know, the people younger than us and stuff like that, we're setting examples. I mean, we're not trying to set a bad example for a person or a kid or anybody that's trying to come into the drag community or anything like that. We very much are worried about the generation underneath us as well, and we're very mindful for that in a lot of our actions. So, you know, it's not just like we're just, you know, against the grain and just going crazy on this side of the fence either. I mean, we really are trying to, you know, hold ourselves in a different, you know, like I said, we were reckless trying to figure out who we were. Now we know who we are. We're not gonna just, you know, we got to carry ourselves still to a higher standard, and that's why we are drag queens. I mean, we could be that nasty pervert, child molester, whatever the world thinks we are, or something like that, and we very well could be that. But you know, it's more about the person and the way we want to live, and the way we want the society to go. And so it's kind of, even though both sides of the argument are very, very similar, even though they don't seem like they are. I mean, we both kind of want the same thing. We both want, if we are going to have this subject, we want it to have a good outlook on it. We don't want a negative outlook. And so, I mean, it's just kind of, these subjects are just kind of hit and miss on the maturity level to be able to have these conversations is more what it is than anything.
Totally.
You know? So that's my thing. I thank you guys, and to this day I don't regret my decision at all. I mean, there's a lot of people that do come out and whatever, but then try to reel it back in because of the backlash that they got or something like that. Ultimately, I'm happy with who I am, and I know it's helped somebody out there, and that's what's important for me. So, I mean, I thank you guys, and I appreciate the time.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome having you.
We hope you'll come back on sometime. Have a good day, Claudette.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
No problem.
Mayana, I'm sorry. You probably got to talk the least of anybody. I apologize, but
You're fine.
You got some closing thoughts you want to give us, or
Not at the moment.
okay. Well, you're welcome back on the program anytime you like. So thank you for coming on.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Have a good day.
You too.
That was pretty good. That was it was a very interesting conversation. Hey viewers, at 8 p.m. today we will be having another stream with the Queen City Watchdogs. We'll be talking about school board meetings. We'll be talking about all kinds of crazy cool stuff.
And he's blowing up right now. The Springfield News Leader actually wrote an article about him yesterday because Sharita Thomas Tate, she got caught not paying her taxes for her non.
I heard about that. Yeah, we're going to talk about that tonight on the episode.
He's the one who reported her, so he's in that article with her. I'm like, damn, bro. So yeah, don't miss that, guys. That's going to be interesting.
It's generally going to be probably amazing. I'm saying it's. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. This is a very good stream, I think. Loved having y'all.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. Till next time. Till tonight. Oh.
3, 4. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Do I look like I need a psychological evaluation?
Not at all.
You want to kill yourself? Oh, right. Shut up! Yes or no? You want to die? Do you want to hear that sometimes I think about eating